Hi everyone, today I wanted to take you right back to the beginning and rewind to when I first started smartphone filmmaking so I could make narrative films. Now I actually started watching the third short film I ever made about a year ago called Broken Zen, and I noticed whilst I'm still happy with it to an extent, there's a lot of mistakes I made in making it and on screen that you can see as well. So I want to take you right back to that film. We're going to watch it, that 3-minute short film, step by step. I'm going to show you stop-start throughout the mistakes that I made so that you can learn from my filmmaking mistakes. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's get started and watch Broken Zen. Okay, so we're 3 seconds in and there's already a mistake or several mistakes that I'm really unhappy with this film. First of all, if we look at this shot here, we can see that we've got this chair in the background with a yellow throat. Now, I put that there because it was too hard to get it out of the door on the right. I probably could have done it if I really put the effort into it, but I just thought, well, it looks like he's moved the chair. It doesn't look too out of story. It's okay. And it kind of does look okay, but it just looks really messy as well. So I think it's just super, super lazy of me to not have done that and actually made sure that it could have just gone outside and made the place look a lot cleaner. And if he's someone who's into meditation, maybe minimalism, that kind of stuff, it would make sense that he would probably move that in clear space to clear his mind. So always think about the story as well, but mainly in this instance, don't get lazy with your shots. If there's something that you're not happy with, get it out of the shot. Don't wait till after, like I have done here, and see that it looks a bit of a mess. You can see on the left-hand side here as well, there's a cardboard box from some delivery that I had as well. Massive, massive box. Again, it doesn't make sense to the story. It doesn't make sense to what he's doing and the clear space he wants to keep for his mind. So it just looks pretty awful, really. I don't know what's on the table here on the left next to the chair as well. That kind of bothers me and distracts me. So these are little things, but the little details really do make a big difference to your film. I like this shot, but there's continuity already here, issues. So if we go back to this shot here, you can see that I've got a glass here next to the plant. Now this is something that people wouldn't really notice, I don't think, if at all, but it bothers me greatly because it's not consistent. It's not consistent at all. You've got the glass on the right hand side here, and in the next shot, literally a split second after, you can see that the glass is now gone. So the continuity really has gone completely out the window for this shot in a small way, but for me it's quite obvious now looking back at it. So make sure that your continuity is on point. When you've got one shot, you move into the next. Make sure if someone's lifting up a drink, it's with the same hand going into the next shot. If it's someone with a glass on the table, make sure it's their second shot, or just don't have the glass at all. Look at your continuity. It's hard when you're on your own as well, filmmaking. You're doing about 20 different jobs, but continuity is really, really important because it can be very distracting for a shot and for a scene. Quite happy with this. Had the wind blowing against that little plant on the right from the doors being wide open. Actually, something that I maybe would change here is possibly put a diffuser next to the right hand side of me. So that way it would have softened the light. I've got a little bit of harsh light on the cheeks there. On the cheeks? On the cheeks. And on my shoulder here, on my collarbone, it's quite blown out. So I maybe would have put a diffusion filter there as well, just to soften the light. This is a sound effect I got from freesound.org, which I would highly recommend. Nice shot outside. This is one of my favourite shots actually out of any film that I've done. So this really comes down to that saying of every frame's a painting. So think about how you're structuring your frames, how your composition is, because that's really, really important to how the audience sees your story and your character. It tells a lot about them and what's important to them, and it also tells them a lot about the world that they're living in and allows the audience to get into that world as well. That I possibly, if I had a stronger ND filter, I would have used that, so I could have not had such blown out clouds here on the left. Quite like this shot. Not much I would have changed there, I don't think. Again, this shot, I don't think I would have changed too much with it. This next one, the only thing I might have changed was me standing in front of that red door with a dark red shirt on, but that's not really it. Now this is something that I would have changed 100% because on this day, I'm going to pause this now, you can see the light starting to change on the image, and the reason that is because on that day there was loads of clouds, but it was sunny, so you were getting grey, dark, sunny, grey, dark, sunny. It was chopping and changing literally every 10 seconds to a minute. So not only did we have to kind of work to the time schedule of the trains going past, we also had to time that with the clouds and the sun, which just became impossible. but I perhaps would have waited till later in the day and just filmed it myself. I had my girlfriend filming this for me, and she got a little bit stressy having to wait for so long for the trains because I missed one. So wait till the weather's consistent so you don't get a really bad looking shot with the light changing during it. This is not great. This shot I quite like actually. One thing I would change perhaps is have myself further to the left, because I think the idea is that I'm walking forwards, so it'd make more sense to have myself to the left for framing and composition, so I've got more distance between me and where I'm walking. That's how you want to frame it. If someone's facing a certain direction, you put them to the end where it's opposite where they're facing. It just looks like it makes more sense to the eye as well when you're watching. So think about the framing, not only the framing, but the positioning and blocking of your characters so it tells the story better. This shot I liked. My main issue with it really probably is that it was just so sunny. I had no way of blocking the sun on me, but there's nothing much I could have done there. Similarly here, I would have put a diffusion filter in front of me if I had someone to help me, but I didn't, on the nose. So you'll notice diffusion of light is quite a big thing here as well, especially outdoors. This scene I'm quite happy with. The sound effects again from freesound.org. They worked out really well. I'll put a link to that in the description below. This is probably one of my favourite shots of the film actually. Now this is a shot that I got because there's a family that genuinely were there down by the river having a party, basically in a river, so I quickly ran over and shot this. The only thing I would have changed is maybe framed myself better in that to make myself more central and bigger. Now here in this shot, there's not a huge amount wrong with it, but it's just not very striking to the eye. So I think perhaps if you're filmmaking yourself and you're in your own film, maybe find more interesting ways to do this. This is the only way I figured out to do it at the time, but I think I would have got more creative with it. Maybe me walking through the plants on the right here down to the bottom, just something a bit more dynamic so it's more interesting. So think about different ways you can frame your shots and have your actors coming into shots. You don't have to make it crazy every time or anything like that, but just think about how you can make things interesting and a little bit more different so it's more interesting and less mundane. This is one of my favourite parts of the film actually that went quite well. This little shot here, if I go back to it. The lighting on this isn't great. I think it's quite dark, especially on the right hand side there, and it's daytime, it's sunny, so it doesn't particularly make sense that it's that dark. So I think I would have made this a lot more bright. So the lighting is really, even in a small little cutaway shot like this for a jump cut or a series of jump cuts, it's really important to make sure that you're lighting everything as well as you possibly can. And I did have one LED light at this stage of my filmmaking, so I probably could have lit that a lot better. So make sure that your lighting is consistent with the time of day that your character's living in. You know, to the eye, it doesn't make much sense that this looks so dark. It's almost like something from a horror film. So make sure the lighting in your shots matches the mood of your film. I like these two shots, they work really well. This one's quite good. And now we're coming to the end of the film here. So again, a bit of diffusion on the right hand side is something that I definitely would have used. You can use bed sheets, you can use baking paper. If I'd realised that at the time, I would have softened that light right up. So my left cheek on the side here or to your right as you're looking at the screen would have been much softer and it just looks a little less amateur. Now there is something I would have added to this film as well, which is more Foley sound, I think. So I just want to show you a quick clip of how it was and how it's going to be now I've added a few extra sounds to it, just to make it feel a bit more interesting and invites you into the story a little bit more and involves you in the story more. So if we take a look at this clip here, there's no sound of footsteps. I've put a birds and sound overlay underneath that, but there's nothing else. Here we've got birds on top, but really I think we could have had him breathing, we could have had the footsteps going through the grass. It would have just added a little bit more to the film. So let's have a look at it with the sound effects added in. So now it just feels a little bit more real to the ears. Sound is so important to films, and having that breath now is just really important and gives you a much more realistic feel to the film. It makes you feel you're right there next to the character and are involved in the film almost yourself. So sound is everything in a film. Make sure that you get on top of that, and little things like the footsteps, like the breathing, if you're close up, that you get it right in there into your film. Makes it a lot more involving for your audience. If you want to learn more about smartphone filmmaking tips, then do hit me up on the video playlist here. If you want to learn a bit more about Filmic Pro, I've got playlists for that too. And also there should be a video that's going to be geared to more what you need right here as well on YouTube's choosing. So I'll see you on the next one. Let me know what mistakes you've made that other people can learn from in your smartphone filmmaking. See you next time. Bye bye.